This class will be concerned with reflection. So we'll start by saying, what is reflection? Now, John Dewey, way back in 1933, defines reflection as a human being willing and able to engage intelligently and ethically with a changing world, and to be a learner from all contexts in life. So the important part of the definition is to be able to engage intelligently and ethically, a changing world, and be a learner and contexts of life. So it's connecting these parts together that makes reflection. It's been able to engage intelligently, to think about life intelligently, think about life and what's happening in a changing world, and to learn from what's happening in a changing world and from all the contexts you've got in life, social contexts, technical contexts, work relationships, work experiences, and to be able to learn from all of these. In essence, it's learning from all of these experiences that is reflection. Lyons provides a comprehensive view of what reflection is. It's a transformative and necessity, of professional life and learning, of developing a knowledge of practice, and for educating wide awake citizens of a democracy. So it's a very broad idea. It's transformative. It looks at what's happened, tries to understand what happens, and to be able to transform it into understanding, and also transform it into a better experience the next time around. It's necessary for professional life and learning. We must reflect to gain insights from what we've done, to understand what we've done. The key terms in this case are transformative, learning, knowledge of practice, and educating wide-awake citizens. Now, when we say wide-awake citizens here, we mean citizens who are aware. This could be workers in the company who are aware of their surroundings, aware of the tasks that they're facing, aware of the learning opportunities that they've got in performing the tasks. So again, reflection is thinking about what's happened and trying to make sense of what happened and understand it in a much deeper way. A much more comprehensive definition is given by Moon. And I'm going to give you this to read. I'm not going to comment a lot on it. It's really a much more detailed description of reflection. It's essentially emphasizing, it's a form of mental processing, which it is. It's reflecting, so it's a mental process. It's trying to achieve some anticipated outcome. The anticipated outcome could be a deeper understanding of some process or some experience. And it's normally applied to a relatively complicated or unstructured idea or a set of ideas. So reflection is when we face something quite complicated and we think back about what it was and about the complexity of what we faced and how we resolved it. So it's looking at a situation and trying to make sense of it and learning from it. The last part of the Moon definition that's worth emphasizing is it's based on further processing of knowledge and understanding. Because when we reflect and we think back about something that's happened and we try to learn from what happened, we're normally bringing to bear even further experiences we've had earlier and in a different context. So sometimes we're joining up a lot of experiences to get a much bigger understanding of some situation. We are looking at the emotions we already possess. We're looking at our faculties. We're looking at our ability to analyze, our ability to think back, our ability to look for connections and understanding in situations. So we are using our emotions here. We're using our reflective emotions. So let's continue by looking at what is reflection. Reflection is a subconscious action. We are constantly reflecting on every activity we undertake. This could be either academic activities or general day-to-day activities. So we reflect, we think back. It could be a presentation or a lecture we've attended. We think back what was said. We reflect on it. We're reflecting on what was said. What did we understand was the outcome? Why was that the outcome? Do we understand it correctly? So we're asking a lot of questions of ourselves and we're thinking about it. And as Moon and others have suggested, we do this almost automatically. We are constantly thinking back about experiences, good and bad, and trying to make sense of them. It's a type of thinking. It can be to analyze your deeper thoughts or make sense of your experiences. We get a lot of information through our experiences. Our experiences, good and bad, impact on us, and we think back later about the experiences and try to make sense of them. What happened? What caused it? What did we learn? How do we avoid this in the future? How do we promote it in the future? Depending on what sort of experience it was. So we're always trying to analyze and make sense of our experiences. The type of reflection is aimed at gaining new knowledge, or the process of reflection, I should say, is aimed at gaining new knowledge. You then understand, develop and apply your knowledge to new situations. So reflection is what's giving us knowledge. We have an experience, again, positive or negative, we have an experience. We go through the experience and then we reflect on it. And it's that reflection that gives us knowledge. That's what we keep. And confronted with the same situation in the future, we have knowledge from which to draw. Reflection incorporates the following: analyzing experiences. Experience provides the foundation for learning and development to occur. We constantly analyze our experiences in order to learn. So reflection must include some analysis and the ability to analyze situations to get the most out of the situation, to understand most what happened. Taking a step back, this allows us to view a situation or experience from different perspectives. We want to understand the situation, but we try to think about that situation if something else had happened, if something else had intervened, what would be the outcome? So we're able to look at a situation from different perspectives. We think about it in different ways. Repetition. Reviewing or going over a situation several times to ensure errors have been minimized. That's a strength of reflection. We think about the experience, we think about what happened, we think about the connections and the knowledge we've gained and our understanding, and then we can do it all again, just in case we've missed something. We might do it again a week later and think about it as an overview. But again, was something missed the first time round? Did we completely understand the situation? Did we understand all of the variables that were involved? So we're able to get a deeper knowledge from the experience than perhaps even previously thought. We're searching for the truth. Only through reflection can you truly be honest about your learning experience and developmental areas. So we've had the experience, we've encountered the experience, we've looked at it, we've analysed it, we've thought about it. Now you must come out with the logical answer. What was the essence of that experience? What did it teach us? And what it taught us may not be nice. It may be a criticism of us personally. But that is the outcome. That can't be changed. It's for us to adjust to the outcome, whatever the outcome was. So we're looking for the facts, not what we want to see, but what actually happened, and we're trying to make sense of that. Being able to reflect on your development provides clarity and judgment in order to draw up a conclusion. So the ability to reflect is very important. Reflecting is a mental process in which we sit down and think about, or we don't have to sit down, but it's a mental process in which we think about some experience, and we try to do it clearly and honestly, and we draw a conclusion. And that conclusion is added to our knowledge base. Faced with similar circumstances, as I said earlier, we have a rough idea about what to do. We've been there before. Now, the importance of reflection. Well, as a student, you'll be expected to be able to reflect on your development throughout your academic studies. It's what students do. They have an experience of a class, experience of a piece of writing. They think about what was said. They go away and reflect on it. They think about it. They sit quietly and think about what was said. Think back. Was the conclusion or the outcome reasonable? Did it make sense? Do they understand it? What supplementary study or information is required in order to make sense, full sense of that experience? Students are encouraged to become independent thinkers. They should be able to evaluate their own progress and take the next necessary steps to improve developmental areas. It's very important that students become independent thinkers. BTEC is particularly good at encouraging independent learning. And it's why many BTEC students are sought out by industry. Because in the working situation, the employer can't always give a mentor or a person who's going to educate a new member of staff. The new member of staff will have to learn by observing, making sense, reflecting, understanding the job. They should be independent. There's no time and no resource to train the person in detail. They may have to learn by doing, learn by observation, and perhaps many employers don't have a budget for, or a big budget for training. They don't have the time or the resource. They expect the new member of staff to learn quickly, learn what's required, learn by doing, learn by observation and reflecting on it, becoming independent learners. Colleges and universities encourage reflective practice through personal development planning, PDP. Many courses expect students and ask students to maintain logs of learning and understand how the learning come about and reflect on the learning and write up the reflections. The importance of reflection. Well, personal development planning provides a structured process of reflection in which students undertake their motivations, or they understand their motivations, I should say. They understand through this structured process of reflection, they understand what they're trying to do, the aims and goals for the future. They're trying to understand if they're realistic and if they're achievable. They're able to understand also through reflection the significance of their achievements and also their likes and dislikes and how to plan and follow a course of action. So personal development planning, PDP, provides a structured process of reflection in which students understand all of these. And it's important for students to understand their motivations, their aims and their goals, their achievements and so on. It's important because it's through this process of reflection that a more precise picture of the individual emerges. Now, the types of reflective practice. Well, all students are different. They have different learning styles, personalities and capabilities. So, as you'd expect, there isn't one size fits all. There isn't one particular approach. It varies according to the type of person, the type of student, let's say, we're dealing with. There are many activities that allow for effective reflection. Each activity is suited for different individuals. For example, question-based reflection. There could be open reflection, developmental reflection, and evaluative reflection. So we have different types of reflection which really reflects the type of person that's doing the reflecting. Which one is most suited? Let's look at each of these and get a deeper understanding of what's meant by each of them. We'll start with question-based reflection, the first one on the list. So question-based reflection. Well, questions-based reflection is a common method used by students. The process is based on setting a series of questions which students must answer regarding their development. So we start with a set of questions. Questioning is suited for individuals who like to work in a logical manner and within an element of control. The process of encouraging analytical and serial thinking. So it encourages analytical and serial thinking. It's logical questioning. Logical questioning of what the student thinks happened. The learning experience that was encountered, what did the student understand by that learning experience? What was the essence of the experience? And questioning the student to find out what he or she understands by that experience. The method helps students to structure their thoughts and guide them through the reflective process and reducing the need for waffle. In other words, by questioning, by having good questions, good logical questions, based on the experience, the students answer the question. They can only answer the question that's asked or posed. So they can't waffle. Waffle means making generalized statements that may not be directly relevant. It means just putting words on paper, not directly answering anything. So having specific questions related to the experience is helpful. It concentrates the mind of the student to answer the questions that were asked. So the students had a learning experience. It could be a lecture, it could be something the students read, and now they've been asked questions about what they understand was contained in that experience. And these questions are focusing the student's mind on what the experience was, what the learning experience was. So for example, How did I use feedback and learning resources to gain deeper understanding? So that's a question. How did I do that? Well, the answer, I read the material several times, thought about what I'd read, and discussed it with my colleagues. So I'm using the learning resource over and over. I'm reading it several times to make sure I understand what's being said. I'm making notes, perhaps, from the learning resource as well. Then I go in and I think about what was said. Did I understand it completely? And then I discuss it with my colleagues. Take the following. How can I maximize my learning from the learning material? Now it's a question that may apply to us. How do I maximize my learning from the learning material? Well, answer, read the PDFs, look at the videos, make notes, take time to think about the points, refine the points and understand them, and return to them later and study them again. This is the reflective process. It's going back. It's thinking about the learning material in the context of this question, thinking about the learning material. What did I learn from that PDF? Look at the notes that you've made related to the PDF. Are the notes accurate? Did it summarize what the PDF was saying? Think about it. Make any changes, refine them, reduce the notes, because don't copy the PDF out word for word. That would be laborious. Just reduce it, get it down to the essence, what's said. Have a clear understanding of it. Refine the points. Then leave it and return to them later and study them again. And if the notes don't bring back the points that was made in the PDF completely, go back to the PDF and read it again. This is the reflective process. It's going backwards all the time to clarify any points that is not understood. Open reflection. Well, open reflection is an unstructured form of reflection. Students are encouraged to go with the flow. There's an element of creativity within this type of reflection. It's an exciting method than answering a set of questions. It's more exciting than answering set questions. Individuals are encouraged to reflect on their personal thoughts. So on this one, there's no fixed set of questions that's been asked about the learning experience. Instead, students are just asked to write down what they think their learning experience was. So it's more exciting than asking a set of questions. It allows individuals to generate new ideas and be creative. However, it doesn't guide individuals on how to structure or make sense of their thoughts and ideas. So it allows students, let's say, to write down what they think they've learned. But it doesn't guide them. It doesn't help them clarify their ideas. The questions could. The questions can lead them to a deeper form of thinking. This one is open. It's, as I said, it's much more exciting, much more interesting to do. But it's not structured. Probably the best approach with this one is to ask the students to write down what they think their learning experience was, and then go back at a later stage, ask them again, and see if the two answers are the same. So with open reflection, it's appropriate for individuals who enjoy working in an organic manner and prefer an open mind approach. So it's much looser. The questions are more restrictive. The questions are forcing the people to go down particular routes, answer specific questions. This one is just open. What did you learn from the experience? What do you think you learned? Write it down. What was the essence of what you learned? What was the core of what you learned? Write it down. The questions may specifically ask for some information that's related to the learning material. So 2 different approaches. There are various methods that could be used to encourage open reflection. Brainstorming is often used, for example. This is when a group of people sit around with a flip chart and ask for ideas. And all the ideas are written down. Some are dismissed later on, some are joined up, new ideas are generated. So they're brainstorming. If many students in a group, let's say 4 or 5 students in a group, many of them got together and read the same article, the same PDF, and then brainstormed. What did the PDF say? What was meant by the PDF? And that's the value of working in a group, where ideas about a particular learning experience can be shared. So brainstorming can be very productive. It can be very useful in focusing the learning from an experience. So the whole group share in that bigger understanding of what was experienced. It could be just discussions one-to-one or in a small group, discussions about a situation, a PDF or a video or whatever, and they discuss it to see what was it about, what did they learn from it, was it useful. Daydreaming is often cited. Sometimes people just sit around almost in a trance, just thinking about what happened, just going quiet and not talking, just sitting there thinking. What was that experience about? What happened? How do I understand what happened? How do I understand what was written? Free writing is when people, let's say students, read a PDF and then they sit down and just write words that they think are most appropriate, or a few words that they think are most appropriate to summarize the essence of what the article was about. Short sentences, single words, short paragraphs, just enough to summarize what the experience was. And it's done in a very unstructured and very free manner. But it should be capable of interpretation later. It shouldn't be so free that it can't be used, picked up at a later stage and gone across and reanalyzed. Depending on what's been reflected on, sometimes it's possible to just draw pictures of what was the experience, and the pictures could represent something very good or something very bad, but it depends on the nature of the experience. It may not apply, for example, to the experience of reading a PDF or looking at a video. It may be more a practical situation, learning from some practical experience, and a quick drawing of the situation will bring it back to mind. Doodling is just very rough sketches, just not making much sense, just very rough sketches of some situation. Generic thinking about the very broad situation. If it's a learning experience, say reading a PDF again, there is a generic part to it where the PDF is put in context with other PDFs that have been read, but in the context of the whole module or in the context of the whole course. So there's a generic component. It's not just about what the PDF says, but it's what the PDF says in conjunction with what was understood from other PDFs and other learning experiences. So it's setting it in context. It's looking at the experience of the PDF in context. Now, developmental reflection. Well, this is reflecting on academic studies. During your academic development, you will be required to take a step back and regularly review your progress. And you need to consider factors such as, are you self-motivated? And if not, how can you increase your motivation to successfully achieve your academic qualification? Being a student, for example, requires a lot of self-motivation. Students have to be motivated. They must want the qualification. If they don't want it, they're not going to be successful. It's going to be obvious that they're going to struggle on the course. But if students who are highly motivated, who will make every effort to try and understand and learn from the material, these students will be successful, chances are. So developmental is looking at your own motivation, looking at your goals for the future. How can they be best achieved through short-term and long-term career planning? Presumably people do courses with something in mind, some career in mind, some lifestyle in mind. So the goals are set down, and then the courses are selected to match the goals. And the courses are undertaken with a high degree of self-motivation, because through successful completion of the courses, the goals will be achieved, whatever the goals were, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of ambitions, or so on. Sorry, I've skipped back to earlier material. So I'm talking about the goals, and now we've moved to career choices. And the career choices should be sufficiently challenging you on an intellectual level. So you have to be self-motivated, and you must know your goals, what you're trying to do. And the career choices must engage you. They must interest you, and you must select careers that are going to engage you and interest you for many years, perhaps. So it's a question of selecting choices, selecting career paths that you will enjoy. It'll give you some satisfaction, work satisfaction, over many years, if that's possible. In other words, I say if it's possible because technology is changing, the world's changing, and it's very seldom we get careers that are fixed for all time. But we're working in an area perhaps that interests us. Then, are there any barriers preventing you to succeed? And if there are, what strategies can you adopt to overcome these potential threats? So reflecting on it, what are the problems about getting certain careers? Anything preventing you from doing so? And what strategies can be used to overcome these potential threats? So developmental reflection is looking at your development. It's looking at how you can develop yourself, normally in the context of the requirements of the market and the requirements of certain careers and certain occupations. You need to be self-motivated. You need to actually want to do it, and want to do it very strongly. You need to have goals. What are you trying to achieve? What's the medium term and the long term goals? Is it the career for you? Is it one that matches your personality? And what are the obstacles for you achieving success in this area? Now, continuing development reflection. Reflecting on professional development. Well, it's important to take time out and think about your professional development. So it's important to look at factors like, are you acquiring the necessary skills in order to meet the requirements of your ideal job? And if not, how can you develop your skills? How can you plug the skills gap? So looking at your professional development, reflecting on your professional development, means looking at your skills, your whole set of skills, and how can you develop your skills so as to better equip you to get the career that you want. Would your academic choices land you the job you desire? Should you do academic courses, or should you do more vocational courses? What sort of job are you after? What sort of career are you after? You are reflecting on your development. You're thinking about your development. It may be you need a hybrid, like the BTEC. The BTEC is academic and vocational. So maybe that's the ideal solution for you. You're getting 2 in 1. Are you taking time out of your studies to pursue extracurricular activities or undertaking work experience? That may be a good idea. It may be a good idea to get work experience and to get extracurricular activities on your CV, because it shows that you are a broader person. You have more interests. You're not just focusing in on doing one thing, getting a qualification, getting a college course completed. You are undertaking wider activities. So that may be important. Are you positively developing your CV? How's your CV changing? What experiences and what extra skills are you putting onto the CV? Are you putting enough on over time? Are your skills and understandings maturing so you're able to bring to bear experiences more effectively? Are you more employable as a consequence? And also in terms of development, are you taking advantage of the resources that are on offer? Are you looking at all the material and reading all the PDFs and looking at all the videos and working actively with your group and engaged in your own research, your own self-managed research, your own self-managed development? Are you genuinely doing this? And what's the outcome from it? Now, monitoring the reflective practice, well, it can be monitored and recorded. During academic studies, students are required to provide evidence of their development. Now, this may be done via an e-portfolio or a blog, recording what you've done and how well you've done it. And it can be recorded, as I said, through keeping logs. Nowadays it would be expected to keep the logs electronically so that it's easy to retrieve the information and to show it to employers. But as I said, you may want to keep a blog and talk about experiences and perhaps involve your group in a blog so that they can all participate and share ideas about particular topics. It could be a journal that you want to keep, which is bigger than keeping logs. It's like a diary, a large diary, which records what you've learned and the experiences, and when you reflected on the experiences, what was your learning then. You may also have action plans. Plans are what you intend to do and how you intend to do it. So it's getting the experience, the whole range of experiences that we're talking about, and then maximizing on those experiences. Looking for all of the learning from the experiences, in other words. And doing this actively. actively looking for the experiences, not waiting for the experiences to come along, but actively going out to try and get the experience. In terms of the present course, if there are 2 PDFs in the class, read both of them. Don't just read the one and make notes, read both, because the other one may be the one that's got more information. So always cover the possibilities. Diaries are a good way of recording your experiences as well. So keeping a diary is always a good thing. And as I said earlier, nowadays a lot of students aim to have electronic e-portfolios. The e-portfolio is a good way of storing images, pictures, material that you've acquired, pieces of research that you've done, learning experiences, and talking about the total package of your learning experience. So it's possible to present this electronically, and it's a good way of reflecting, maintaining and reflecting on the experiences of the past. Evaluative reflection, well, questionnaires, these are an effective means of self-evaluation. The method requires a structure in which developmental areas can be identified. So questionnaires are a good way of evaluating how well you understood something. It could be attitudinal. Did you understand this experience very well, not so well, neutral, didn't understand it at all? So you could have a scale. That's a simple Likert scale. But you could have a scale in which you evaluate your reflection. How did you understand the experience? What did you get from the experience? Questionnaires can be used several times at different stages of your development. They can be used before and after to assess progress at different stages of your development. So questionnaires give you a good structure for evaluation. They're normally effective. They're used alongside other reflective methods. This will allow you to paint a picture and analyze where you're heading in terms of your academic and professional development. So questionnaires are good, but so also is the process of reflecting yourself and just making some notes about the reflection and some free notes about the reflection, what you learned, what you think you learned, what was the essential point, what was the core of the experience, and reflecting on that, as well as using a more structured questionnaire approach. Now, the critical events in evaluative reflection. Critical events is a way of analysing, understanding and learning from events that have occurred throughout life. It's important to pick out the essential points. There are many experiences we get which are not that important to us in terms of learning. You could describe them as trivial. But there are some experiences we have which are very important. These are critical events and they should be picked out. Now, reflecting on such events as the first or last time something happened. So when we have an event which stands out, we have to think, well, when was the last time this happened? Or is this the first time it happened? If it happened before, then perhaps we have had experience of it before and we can bring to bear our experiences from the last time to the current situation. We can compare the two. If this is the first time it's happened, then it's a major event and it's critical, it stands out from all the other events and we can learn from it. It could be a difficult situation. How did you overcome the situation? What was learned? It could be at work. There was a difficult situation. Something had gone wrong with the computer system and customer details were lost, and it was a big order. So how was the situation retrieved? And what was learned from it? Perhaps the importance of a backup was learned, that all the files should be backed up every day, let's say. So we're reflecting on something that was difficult. It may be that we're reflecting on the learning curve for some situation. So when we encounter a new process, we have to learn it. We call it our learning curve. It might be very difficult at the start and get easier as time goes on. So it might be quite steep at the start and then flatten out. Or the learning curve could be very gentle at the start and difficult later. So we can reflect on the learning curve. We can reflect on when it was most difficult and what time was required to understand the various functions and what resources were required, and think back about the way we used the resources and the way we used time and the way we applied ourselves to understand that particular experience. You also can look at critical events and reflect on when we learnt from the experience and what we learnt about ourselves. It's important that we know ourselves in the context of the experiences we're having. We should know our abilities, our capabilities, our motivation, our character. If the task is very difficult, do we give up? Or do we continue to try to understand it and master it? And are we highly motivated individuals that we will continue to try to understand something, even though it's very difficult? And if it's a long situation, let's say a business course that is taking 2 years, it seems like a long time. Have we got the motivation to maintain the effort? And do we see a much bigger picture where completion of the course will make it worthwhile? Events that occur provide valuable material for you to reflect on in your development and your performance over time. So it's important that when we have an experience that we reflect on it. Some experiences we're setting out to engage them. We're setting out to read the PDF, to watch the video, to read the book. Some experiences simply happen. We are working on our material on the course and our laptop suddenly fails. What is our response? How do we deal with this? What contingency have we made to avoid that situation? And having reflected on this possibility, what action did we take? So reflection is a very important part of learning. It's what, as I said to you right at the start, it's what adds to our knowledge. We have experiences, and we look at the experiences to try and find out the essential feature of the experience, the part of the experience that gives us knowledge. And that's how we learn. That's all I'm going to do in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that. There are some references that you can go back over later. It's a long video, so I suggest you go back over it a few times, stop it, start it, wind forward and backwards, and use it to try and pick up as many points as you can about reflection. It's an important topic, and it's one that you must understand. It's a very widely used idea, particularly in business, where there are many experiences. And this type of learning really comes home to roost in the context of Cobb's learning cycle and experiential learning. So it is very important. But let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.